the world. Good morning, good evening, good night, good day, or however you say it. It's the time of the day. Let me see. Well, I am in North Carolina in the United States of America. I know we have people from all parts of the world. Today, we are here to have a discussion, a shared conversation on the UNESCO Literacy Day. Literacy teaching and learning in the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. Today, it's really great. We must say, first of all, thank you very much to all of the organizations that are partnering with us today. We have the Center for SDG, who is the #1 host and planner, organizer, everything for this event, which is Dr. Ada. She has done an exceptional job. So I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Ada for bringing up all of us together from the various parts of the world that we can be able to come together and have this wonderful discussion. We have Magban Arts, we have the Irene Maneka, we have the CARICOM International Foundation, we have the African Cultural Production, and many other organizations which I will mention as we continue throughout the day. Let me say welcome to all of the panelists, all of the distinguished guests, all of the ambassadors, all of the presidents in your rightful positions, the directors, founders for organizations, whatever position you hold in whichever organization. Welcome, welcome, and thank you very much for availing yourself to be here today, to speak to us, to share with us in this time, in this conversation where we can be able to enlighten each other and bring certain matters and things to the forefront during this time of the pandemic. We know school is about to reopen around the world in various countries. Some already started in various states here in the US, some already started. And it's a topic, it's something that we need to address right now, how the literacy would impact and it would benefit the schools and the nations. You see, we have youths all over, and they're not fond, they're not aware of the culture, of the language, of the literacy around them. You might be living in Suriname and you have not the slightest clue about Guyana. You might be living in Nigeria and you have not the slightest clue about what goes on in Belgium. So having this conversation with speakers from various parts of the world is very, very, very interesting and very good. Let me just read a message from Ms. Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO on the Association of International Literacy Day. And it reads, in celebrating International Literacy Day, we recall the fundamental rights of everyone to develop the basic skills to read the world and write its future. Literacy, said Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations, is the key to delivering the potential of every human being, the key to opening up a future of freedom and hope. However, despite UNESCO's continued commitment, historic legacy campaigns, national investments, and the immense progress made by the majority of countries, despite the tenacity of all those who work daily for literacy, too many children, adolescents, and adults are still deprived of this right. Some 617 million young people have not mastered basic literacy and numeracy skills. Yet, many of them are in school. There are a future 773 million illiterate adults who are too often left behind. I will read that part again. There are still 773 million illiterate adults, which is bad, which we need to correct, which we need to change, who are too often left behind. We must therefore redouble our effort for those 1.4 billion people. This is all the more necessary as the educational crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has jeopardized the progress made in recent decades. To overcome its consequence and continue to move forward, we need to focus on those who are on the front line, educators. We have seen their dedication during this unprecedented situation, but we have also witnessed their insecurity and deprivation since the daily work of teaching literacy, however essential it is, receives too little recognition and support. First, challenge is therefore to ensure that educators everywhere in the world are able to carry out their work under good conditions by increasing their numbers to meet needs, by paying them fairly, and by providing them with good job stability. We also need to empower them, however, by training them and supporting them throughout their practices. They must be able to benefit from proven educational methods that aim to tackle the inequalities linked to age, gender, or specific vulnerabilities. This support must continue throughout the practice to enable them to develop and adapt in all circumstances, particularly in the face of upheavals, such as school closures. With 2 out of every 3 students in the world still learners, this will be an important aspect of our reflection on the future of education. At a time when we need to reinvent a world of hope, literacy is more important than ever. I'll read it again. At a time when we need to reinvent a world of hope, literacy is more important than ever. On this International Day, I just invite all those involved in education to redouble their investments and mobilize all their resources to unleash the potential of each individual in the service of a shared world. Today, that is what we will be doing here. We are going to pool all of our resources together and work together to see how best we can be agents of change. We can be the ones to help set the stage so that others can be able to benefit from what we are doing here today, so that they of themselves can be able to receive the knowledge. We can be able to curb that 1.2 billion individuals who are still struggling to get the education that they need. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you one of our keynote speaker. He is Ambassador Fawad Ali Langa, Global Goodwill Ambassador, UN model, trainer, and consultant. He at this time will come and speak to us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devon, for a great speech, of course. And before I can start with that, let me quickly show you an amazing video, special that focused into today's day.
Imagine not being able to read during a pandemic and miss out on life-saving information. Today, this is the case for at least 773 million adults and young people around the world who lack basic literacy skills. Globally, the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted education, affecting 91% of students and 63 million teachers. While efforts have been made to continue education through distance learning, youth and adult literacy programs have mostly been suspended. This is a stark reminder of the fragile state of literacy learning. This needs to change. To leverage the transformative power of literacy, we need to prioritize quality teaching and learning. We need to invest in educators so they can adapt teaching to various conditions. We need to build robust learning systems so that literacy programs throughout life are resilient. Together, we can use the time of crisis to reimagine literacy teaching and learning. On International Literacy Day, let's step up the collective efforts and commit to making literacy teaching and learning a priority so that no one is left behind. Imagine not being able to read.
That's fine. Thank you very much, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for giving me a great responsibility. And of course, again, a big day for all of us, a great celebration of Literacy Day. However, it's a bit sudden, or I must say, a bit upset, like the situation is going on just because of this COVID-19. And no doubt, one of the core area and one of the biggest thing which has actually been exposed and really been, you can say, hit was actually the education sector, was actually the learning aspect. So International Literacy Day, of course, 2020, and this year is actually more focused, especially after this pandemic. It is actually focusing on literacy teaching and learning in the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. It is actually more focused into the role of educators and changing pedagogies on this. The theme itself, of course, highlight the major area, the lifelong learning perspective, and mainly it is actually focused into the youth and, of course, the adult. Bearing in mind that the recent COVID-19 crisis has actually created a huge gap between the policy disclosure and the reality. And even the gap that already existed in the disadvantages, I must say, or could be pre-COVID-19 eras, which is somehow negatively affecting the learning of youth as well as adults who have no or could be low literacy skill and therefore tend to face multiple problems and obstacles. Today, my focus is mainly into the area of how SDG education can be used from the languages, experiences, and challenges, and what sort of different teaching methods through languages actually we can actually focus and especially dig out on the international recognized day, EU and literacy. So let's focus about the importance of itself, the language, I must say. But language, indeed, it's a key element of communication. Since there is no development without communication, I must say, like we can state that the language has a particularly, or you can say, important function in the achievement of sustainable development. But think about, like, of course, how would you explain someone if you actually don't know the appropriate language to convincing them? According to the UNESCO, actually, language is actually the important because through language, people communicate, share meaning, and experience their sense of individual and community identity. I mean, loss of language and culture is actually frequently accompanied by large human and social costs, and that's including, of course, poverty, poor health, drug and alcohol abuse, and family violence, and suicide, of course. Recognizing the profound importance that the people place on their languages is actually the core insight for even tackling the poverty and hunger, which is actually one of the key areas of SDGs, starting from like 1 to 7 goals if we just bifurcate all SDG 17. So 1 to 7 goal are actually focusing into the people's side, is actually focusing the major root cause as well as the necessity of this mankind. And poverty and hunger, of course, are the topmost into that. And it is an important part, I must say, like to move away from top down and then models of development that have been shown not to work, and towards particularly about the development models, which often do, or you can say like different steps in the development of human languages. So that's what the importance of languages. It's very, very important to do so. And after, you can say, the language, one of the key aspects that could somehow help is actually the culture. But culture can be defined as like the sum of attitudes, customs, belief that distinguish one group of people from another, of course, because of the different cultural diversity. Cultures is actually transmitted even again through language. That is the major bridge, I must say. Material, objects, ritual, and institutions and art from one generation to the next. That is very, very important, I must say. It is indeed. And if we just align both language as well as the culture, so it says like language is not only a communication tool, it is an effective instrument for knowledge sharing, understanding between different stakeholders, peace building, negotiations, social and economic changes. Even though language is one of the key elements of communication, and culture, on the other hand, is actually transmitted from generation to generation, essentially through languages. Like, how would I know about my forefathers? How would I would know about my culture heritage, my culture diversity, of course, because through languages. Like, what is my language that actually helps me to do so? And then dialogue based on cultural values can contribute to achieve SDGs, I must say. That is very, very important. And if we more focus what the current situation is actually going on, like the challenges and the obstacles pertaining to the achieving of SDGs. And then one of the aspects and one of the researchers like, maybe we may not be able to achieve Agenda 2030, unfortunately, after this global pandemic. And people think, there's a set of school that actually think that after this COVID, these 17 goals have not reality now. It doesn't have a proper reality exist after this COVID. But if we see all 17 goals, we do have the challenges and obstacles, no doubt, in every sector, especially in the health sector and then education sector, economical development side, of course. And as I said earlier, like if we bifurcate all 17 goals, 1 to 7 is actually the people goal. And then from 8 to 12 is the prosperity. And then 13 to 15 is actually the climate. And then relevant to motherland, our earth. And 16 is about peace and justice. And 7 that collaborate all of that is the global partnership. So people think that after this COVID, we see that these SDG 70 are actually don't exist at all, because it's totally hit all the indicators as well as the targets. But I must say, the answer is wrong in that manner. Because if you see all those 17 goals with their targets as well as the indicators, they are the walkthrough, especially during this pandemic. It covers everything, starting from your poverty, your education, your health, your climate, and all other areas, of course, the industries and innovation. So it is actually the best opportunities for all the national authorities and the decision makers Like if they follow and invest and work into the targets of SDGs, definitely and most probably they will be somehow fulfilling all the loopholes what happened after this global pandemic. So in this literacy, on this day of literacy, I must say, what we really need to focus, like how we can localize, how we can actually encourage, how we can actually urge people to learn about, to seek more knowledge about all those 17 SDGs. Now, it could be through different language aspects, it could be different teaching methods, it could be different cultural methods, culture to culture, of course, giving people one another, sharing of knowledge, of course, because one of the biggest issue that what people doesn't know and what people does as having a problem is actually lack of awareness of this SDG 17. So on this day, we as the educates, we as the educationists have to take an oath. Like we have to follow different cultures. We have to use the different languages and try to encourage and convince people to understand the importance of these 17 goals, which will definitely lead us to achieve all 2030 agenda, which was of course have been decided in 2015, and 5 years has been done. We are just 1 decade away. So this day of literacy is actually focusing on a very, very important aspect. No doubt that our education system needs to be reformed. No doubt there should be a proper curriculum development with the new opportunities, with the more digital way out. Because the current era, after the global pandemic, more focus into the digital side, more focus into the digital globalization, or you can say digital bridging. Just think it's been more or less like about 8 months. Did we actually thought that will this world be having a boost of a digital era? Of course not, but we are right now. The current era is actually focusing into the digital era now. We are more into that. So this is what the basic thing, we as the educationists, we as the educates of even SDGs, that how we can convince our youth, society, and of course to our nation, that by following the current digital curriculum, the current digital development, how we can create a proper curriculum that could focus and prevail the SDGs, I must say, that could somehow championing all those 17 goals by adopting all the current digital curriculum. So all the curriculum needs to be somehow transformed and offer different areas. That could be, of course, into the digital education. That could be, of course, into the remote education. That, of course, more into focus into the online education, because we don't know. Maybe, God forbid, we don't know. We may have another wave of this pandemic, God forbid, but we have to prepare ourselves that the ratio of this illiteracy, that the ratio of low literacy should not be fall down what is right now. It means we have to prepare ourselves. We have to come up and reform all our different curriculum and different aspects related to the education, related to the literacy side, that if any such pandemic comes, we should not fall what we are actually into that, but we should be prepared to move ahead. Once again, I am very, very thankful to Dr. Ada I am very thankful to all other respective partners. And of course, once again, I congratulate to everyone to having a great day and celebration of International Literacy Day. But again, we have a big responsibility now, even after this global pandemic, as the youth educates, as the educationists, that we need to give a proper direction to our society, to our adults, to our youth, who are actually known as the catalyst for the nation building. And in my opinion, as the SDG educate, SDG is the key to move ahead, to help the entire nations to come up and back to an order after this global pandemic. Thank you so much, and thank you very much. And I rest my own case and back to the moderator. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fawad. Thank you very much. Thank you. Indeed, that was well said, well put together. And yes, we do have to come together and be able to address and be agents as well. At this time, I want to let you guys, let us know about the main objectives. Three of the main objectives that was indicated by UNESCO in this regards. One is to enhance the understanding about impact of the COVID-19 crisis on teaching and learning of youth and adult literacy and educators, and to reflect on reimagined teaching approaches in times of the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. Two, to increase awareness of the need to reinforce support for educators and their professionalization in prompting youth and adult literacy towards the achievement of the SDG in its totality. And finally, to generate and share new knowledge related to educators, including that pertaining both to their profile, pre and in-service training, and also to their pedagogies and teaching methodologies. So with that being said, we are going to hear from a number of individuals, a number of speakers today on the various languages. Now, these individuals will be representing different languages, but what I want to let them know, if you want, we would permit and we would request just so that others can be familiar with what the language sounds like. You can take about 30 seconds and you can say something within your language. But the rest of your time, we would like for you to speak in English in a way like that everyone will be able to understand. But to bring awareness to the language that you speak, that you represent, please spend about 30 seconds just maybe greet us in your language or something, so that we can be able to become familiar, because I can say, I myself, I am not too much familiar with a lot of the languages. So this is an opportunity for all of us to learn about the various language and get some kind of a sense as to what it sounds like. I know many of the other panelists and guests will agree with me on that. Because even though I speak English, a lot of people sometimes tend to ask me, well, what language do you speak? I don't know how you will ask me what language I speak when I do speak English. You should be asking me what dialect. But that's another conversation for another time. So at this time, we will have Eric Kombati, German Cultural Center from Washington, D.C. He will be speaking to us on the language of German. Eric, over to you, sir.
Thank you, and then guten Tag, die Runde. Ich bin Eric Kombate, ich komme aus Togo und ich wohne in Washington, D.C. Ich arbeite zurzeit bei dem Goethe Institute Washington und ich arbeite im IT-Bereich. I want to thank you all today. I want to thank also Dr. Ada to give me the opportunity to be airports trying to reach DC because I went to visit a friend in Chicago. So what I want to say is which kind of difficulties we faced when this COVID started. But before going on with that, I want to share something about what I heard from a country, Togo. We are here today talking about how we can change the future with teaching because no one was expecting this COVID to come. But here, like in US, we have everything. We're doing online classes. But I don't know if you guys imagine what can be doing where we all come from, where there is no internet in our village, where there is not like people don't have access to do online classes. So that was something I want you all to think about, and maybe that will help us to do a big project, maybe we don't know, changing something there. So now going to the points, when this pandemic started, we were facing a lot of difficulties. How we can get students in to submit for their online classes, and also how we can put our teachers at work, because no one was expecting that. No one was aware about how to use Zoom or Adobe Connect to teach. So that was, for the first month, a big deal, trying first to get teachers in work, trying to give them to take classes to learn about how to use Zoom and Adobe Connect to teach. And the second part also was how we can convince students to sign up for the online classes, how we can make them sure that the online classes will be something they used to have in-person classes. So at the first time, student was like, okay, I'm not sure that will be the same thing. I don't want to spend my money to do that. But when we start doing it, I can say that now we have more students than doing in-person classes, because we try to put everything digital, trying to make students working in interactions, trying to help them feeling like they are still in the classrooms. So what I want to add about the difficulties we face was first convincing students, making sure that they will learn during this pandemic using online classes like being in-person classes. Because one thing also is, being online, you are not seeing the teacher. You are like using your computer, don't face the teacher, you can do everything you want. So it was something very difficult to try to capture the attention of the participants, how to get them to be something we really face. And during that time going on, students were like, okay, now we can do it. And then they were trying to do their best, putting themselves at work. And I can be sure that today, we at German Cultural Center, we can say we try to do our best using these online classes to have more students, and using our target language to teach students about how, first, maybe their behavior during this COVID pandemic, and how they can try to think about the future. Because like, I don't know who was saying that, the ambassador, when he spoke first, was saying, we don't know what can come maybe in 10 months. Maybe you can have something bigger than this one. So if you don't get ourselves prepared, how can you fix that? So it's something really we need to do, trying to put our strength, trying to do everything, like trying to readapt our curriculum so that students can also learn online, like learning in person. I know that in DC right now, a lot of schools open, but they are doing always online classes. There's no in-person classes. Youth, adults, everyone is doing online classes. So if we don't prepare our students, we don't prepare our youth, we don't prepare our community to use the digital doing things online. They can face it if maybe something like this happen in the future. So that will be my point. And to end my topic, I would say for me, for my part, I'm very convinced that a lot of teaching will continue doing the digitalization, especially universities where we have like a lot of students, like 1,000, 2,000 students coming. They will opt to do everything online because we don't know when these things can be like, we can say, okay, the COVID is finished, so we can go back doing everything. So for me, I know, and I'm very sure about that, people will still opt doing online events, online meeting, and then online education, like we at the German Cultural Center, we are doing right now. Thank you very much. Thank you. That is all for me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Or as they say in German, danke.
Yeah, bitteschön.
Okay.
Dankeschön.
Bitteschön.
Ladies and gentlemen, well said, my brother. Thank you. We will have in Igbo, we have Nwada Noblin Ngozi, Igbo Amaka Cultural Institute.
Ndewono. Dalano. Ahambo Ngozi. Ahambo Noblin Ngozi. Thank you guys. Thank you for this opportunity. I also want to thank Dr. Ada for this great opportunity. I would go straight forward to language is a very vital tool for communication, transmission of culture, and also socialization. In terms of language, I will be focusing on Igbo language today. And by the way, I was greeting you guys when I started in my language. It's a very, one of the languages actually in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you have the Hausa, you have the Yoruba, and of course you have the Igbo language. And amongst the three of them, Igbo language seems to have a lot of challenges in terms of centralization, because you have so many dialects, because you have so many communities who are under the Igbo tribe, and each community have their own dialect. And that's one of the challenges we have in terms of the standardization of the Igbo language. Problem with dialects have led to a lot of threats. In 2012, UNESCO had this vision of letting the Igbo people know that their language would go into extinct if they don't do anything about it. And during COVID crisis, one of the challenges that we had was being able to communicate to the people in the villages in the Southeast Nigeria. And Southeast Nigeria happens to be the Igbo tribe, dominantly or predominantly owned by Igbo people. Igbo people live there, so many of us, and being able to communicate what COVID was, what the pandemic was, and how to be able to stay safe during the pandemic was a little bit challenging because of the dialects. And those that are literate, most of them, especially the are always having issues with keeping up with the language, because you have some of us, our parents are not eager to teach us about the language. And some of us who actually want to learn the language, we don't get to see people of our age who are eager to actually teach the language. And they're not just not interested in teaching, but them themselves don't know the language fluently. So you only teach, of course, what you're very good at. So during pandemic, we had, because Nigeria is a very diverse country, we had the Hausa, we had the Yoruba. They did their videos in their various languages, educating people how to stay safe in their own native language. Igbo people, we did ours, but we went through a lot of struggles. We had to go through a lot of scholars to be able to determine what particular dialects we should keep, and we should be able to send out to the UN so that everybody will be able to have access to the same information. And we actually did that, but it did went through a lot of scholars. Another challenge we had was being able, I have been teaching Igbo language in the US. I was born and raised in Southeast Nigeria. So I am very conversant and very fluent in the Igbo language. And I've been teaching here in the US. I've been teaching the language for over 5 years now. And even as a student, I also make time to teach in different colleges. And the organization that I'm representing, which is the Bamaka Cultural Institute, is an organization that implements the native language across colleges and universities across the country. So during this pandemic, one of the challenges we had was being able to get students to focus. We teach the class in person before COVID, and then COVID came, and even before COVID, getting the students to be interested in the language and getting their attention in the language. Because teaching this language, I hear students say, oh my God, Igbo language is very hard. Yoruba is much easier than Igbo language because Igbo language has much more dialects. So getting the student to be to focus is a problem during this pandemic, but we are making it work. The success is that we had students who actually had the interest, and they kept with the whole interest up until the end of the semester, which is the spring semester. And during the summer semester, we extended it to an open online. When I mean online, I mean internet, social media. We had people from different countries who were also interested in taking the classes. The classes are not just limited to people who are in the US or people who are registered with these courses under colleges, but this class was open to people who both in Nigeria, UK, I mean, name it, across the globe. And people, especially the younger ones, being very conversant and very good with technology, they were able to make it work. We did have some time differences, but we made it happen. COVID happened. This is not the first COVID that happened. And I'm in the medical field. I'm a medical student doing my rotations right now. Will another pandemic happen in the next 2, 3, 5 years? Unfortunately, yes, it will. We have an influenza. I felt like we could have been prepared more than we were for this COVID. Another pandemic is gonna happen. What does UNESCO has to offer in terms of making sure that every communication is sent out to people who are not literate or people who doesn't have access to English language? Now, it is about time for us to come together and make sure we have people who are representing different native languages, not just Spanish, Chinese, French. There are other native languages that need attention, and I felt like UNESCO could do a better job by bringing people on board who will be able to represent this different native language and make sure that when another epidemic or pandemic comes up, we have essential languages that will be sent out across the globe for people who are not educated or have this basic skills in English language. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ngozi. It's quite interesting when we look at the language, how it is around the world. I just said I speak English, and people ask me, what language do you speak? And here we have a prime example. A prime example. I visited Ghana, and in one ear I'm hearing someone speak Chi, and in another ear I'm hearing something else. So I'm like, what's going on? So this is very interesting. It's good to know that at the end of the road, you guys were able to help and find means and ways within the Igbo language to educate the people in regards to COVID. And it's something that should be done. We should be able to reach the people at their language, especially when you have people of native language. You cannot forsake them. You cannot neglect them. Thank you very much once again to you, my darling. Thank you. Next, we will have, speaking in Chinese, we will have Yiling Li, President of UCT, International Cultural Development, Inc.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yiling Li, and I'm a UCT President. Today, I'm very honored and very happy to be this very important event. And also, I like to appreciate Dr. Ada to invite me. So I learned a lot from the speakers, and also everybody discussed the language, how important to helping the world. So this special time, I like also share some things, or maybe I should speak a couple Chinese.
Yes,
okay, I'll teach you, okay. Hello means 你好. Hello means 你好. 大家好，我是李依林 ，UCT 文化中心的主席，是联合国的 NGO，所以很高兴今天呢能够在这里和大家分享一下，在我们这个COVID-19 来临的时候呢，我们是怎么样来够更好的推动联合国的17条可持续发展目标。So today I'm very happy to have this chance to share some experience with everybody during this very unique pandemic situation. So I'm basic in New York, but I have a lot of relatives in China, and through the WhatsApp, WeChat, we know each other safe. And also, I learned a lot from China. So I like to also share some information for everybody. So maybe I can first important is now every day you can see on the street, people is wear the mask. But some people wear the mask, they wear the right side, right way. But some people, they don't know is to take also with risk. So I like to share the screen. Let me share the screen. Okay, can everybody can see the screen?
Yes, now we can see it. Go ahead.
Okay, you can see here is like a party A and party B. The left side party A without mask, but if she have COVID-19 positive, and the party B don't have, is healthy people. If they both party didn't wear the mask, if you didn't have a 6 feet, and even you have a 6 feet, you may have chance. But if you didn't put a social distance, you will 100% to get the COVID-19. So this is very dangerous. And also second, you can say second line, this is the left side. If the positive COVID-19, the people didn't wear the mask, and another party wear the mask, you may have a 70% chance to get the COVID-19. If the third row, you can see that if somebody you are positive get COVID-19, if she wear the mask, if other people party B didn't wear the mask, there's only have a 5% chance to get the COVID-19. And then the last one, of course, the both party wear the mask, they only have a 1.5% chance to get the COVID-19. So how important we need both party, everybody need wear mask. So this information I like to share with everybody, and also hope you tell your friends. So that's why New York, now I'm going to street, I saw everybody wear the mask. So this is a very good things. So protect, that's why now it's fortunately New York is much less than other city. So yeah, which is well educated. So we thank our governor. And also second one, I like to share another picture. So what is, everybody can see this picture?
Yes, we
Hello,
can, yes.
everybody? Okay. You can see we are now, so most people wear the mask, but if you wear this not the right way, you may have chance to get COVID-19. So this picture is very clear to tell us how to wear the mask. Because we wear the mask the whole day, so some people just say, oh, okay, let me breathe a little bit, or we talk, then they take off the mask on the neck. So because neck may have some disease, so if you take a mask like this, then put on again, so the disease will come in, in your mouth and in your nose. You may have chance. So with suggestion, everybody, don't take mask on your neck. This is like one of another suggestions. So hope everybody get it. Okay, so we come back. Sorry. Okay, so now, a lot of people stay in the home and do the internet things. And a lot of people also a little upset the situation. But I want to tell everybody, God closed one window, opened one door for us. You see how amazing today. And we have a different country, people come together in the road. So this is great for, you know, and maybe we have more opportunity to change the language, to learn it from each other. This is great things. And also through the internet, I think we can teach the people more while. You can say we can go to Webin and we can say the live, you know, TV. So more people to get the information. This is great. But another side I want to remind everybody, and also is our senior people, like the old people, the age is a little bit older, because the one of the level people, they don't have chance to learn the website and internet things. So if like this, during the COVID-19, everybody shopping in the internet, meeting in the internet, so everything almost in the internet. So new century coming, and which is good. But another things we need to take care our other people, they don't know how to go to internet. This is the most like the age going the like a little older people. So, and also another things I want to share everybody is like when you stay home, right? And a lot of people is like a little bit depressed. For the Chinese philosophy, so we also have like Chinese medicine, meditation. So I suggestion everybody, when you wake up, you can have a 5 minutes meditation and exercises, and also think some positive way and drink more water. So this is today I'm share, and then thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, for enlightening us and educating us where that is concerned. Now, personally, I did not know, guilty by association. I did not know that I shouldn't let my mask fall here on my neck. I did let it fall there plenty of times. Now I have to go take the mask and go wash it now. And then I have to go wash my neck. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yiling. At this time, we will move to our next speaker, who will be speaking to us about French and Creole. Dr. Please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I know it's French, so the letters are a bit different. Is it Finola?
Yes, it's correct, Finolia.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Idahosa, the CEO and Safeguard Home Health Care in California. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Bonsoir tout le monde qui j'ennuie, nous pas pi mal, moi le docteur Finolia, moi sorti Haïti. Bonsoir, salut, comment ça va? Je m'appelle Finolia. That was French and Creole. I was born in Haiti, and Haiti is a beautiful country, was and still is to me, where we came from Africa. We came from different parts of Africa, and till this day, Haiti is one of the only place in the Caribbean that is very close to the African culture. We still use a lot of the same cooking, a lot of the same traditions. But unfortunately, Haiti is one of the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And literacy rate, I was checking, is 49%. Now, there are some other countries that are still very low comparing to Haiti, like Burkina Faso and so on and so forth. But it's very sad to see the time that we're living in with the fast pace of internet and social media, that our country, very close to the US, is still struggling, where people really still don't know how to read. But one thing I found that was really sad and fascinating, I worked in a hospital in Brooklyn for many years, and the Haitian people, my people, when they came to the hospital, it was hard for the doctor to even communicate with them. And one problem was they would say they speak French, but they couldn't read the French. They would say they speak Creole, they can't read and write it. So we have two languages in one country where most people who have an education tend to say they speak French. And then the average people who don't go to school, even though it's a French country, they can understand some words, but they don't really speak and write the language fully. And I can say, for example, I have in my own family, since its literacy rate is so low, that means most of the people cannot read and write. A lot of my own family and relatives they don't know how to read and write. And one of the complaints I remember a family member said is that she has eyes, but she feels like she's blind because the words and things would be in front of her and she cannot read it. And that made me feel so bad to a point where I was searching for many years. I searched a place where they had a program here in the US because they came to the US, she's living here. I found a program where I found a teacher that sent her some books and they would call her and do some schooling with her. But after a year of doing the program, unfortunately, they canceled it. So even though Haitian people can live in Haiti and have a tough time, when they come to the US, it's even harder because now they have to learn English. They already had broken Creole and French. Now they have to learn English, try to read it, and they can't read and write. So it's very difficult. So back to the hospital, what did they have as a problem? Well, the doctor would come and try to speak to them, give them paper in French. They don't understand it. They would give them the thing in Creole. They didn't understand it. So they had to use a phone interpretation to see if they could help them. But what that led to was this problem. Like they would go home with medication, with instruction, and still not be able to follow it. And again, within my own family, I've seen this situation happen. I had a family member who took a tea. You know how you have some of the Chinese tea? It was a Chinese tea that helps you go to the bathroom. Well, the person thought he was taking a regular tea to drink. So he made the tea very strong. And after drinking the tea, he was sick. Well, he didn't know what was happening. His stomach was hurting him so bad, and he was really going through a tough time. And then he started going to the bathroom, and they thought something was wrong with him. But it was after questioning, came to find out he took a tea, and the tea was a laxative. But if he only knew how to read, then he would have been able to see that this tea would actually, cause the type of signs and symptoms that he was going through. So the reason why I give these examples is to show how important it is when people are able to read and write and be able to help themselves. Because if you live in a society where the poverty level is so low, people are more at risk of not being able, and especially young children, to go to school and get an education. And that leads to adults having to struggle later on in life. I am very happy to be here, to be a part of this program. I was born in Haiti, but I would say I was fortunate that my father was able to get me to this country where I was able to go to school, go to college, and be able to earn degrees. But some people don't have that opportunity. But I want to be able to help as much as I can. And that's why whenever I would ask to do things like this, I would stop whatever I'm doing to do it. Because I believe if we can come together and help educate people, find ways to get programmed, anything that would help a child, because we don't know what anybody can become in the future. But if we prepare them early on, that's what's going to shape the future. And I believe children, especially around the age of 3 and let's say 12, is very important to have educational program for them, because that's when they are learning and developing, and their mind can absorb as much things as possible. We cannot wait till they turn 20 and then try to help and bring something to them, because at that time it's a different level of survival. So whatever I can do to help educate, I will. Our family do have a nonprofit organization. It's called Anasta Hudson Boxing and Sports Club. I am not a grant writer or know how to look for grant, but it's something that's always been in my heart to help in Haiti, also in Africa, because my husband is from there. Right now with this situation that's happening, if we had computers and some internet programs, and we would have been able to send down there where the kids would have remote learning. There are places right now where coronavirus hit some countries, but people are still able to learn. They're still able to do virtual learning, remote learning. But in Haiti, where they don't even have money to go to a classroom, most places don't even have internet or light. This is something that they're not even thinking about. And it's sad, because with all the money and all the knowledge and all the things that is available around this world, sometimes I think, how can I get my hand into some of this stuff so I can help? But being here is a great opportunity to open up minds and let people know that together we can do so much. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to end, this is one thing that I do a lot, is meditation. I think positive, and I do have imagination. I do a lot of imaginary thinking, and because I believe that with imagination, there's so much that we can complete and can do. And with positive thinking, you never know where you can land, because the right people is all we need sometimes to change things and change the world. So if everybody would like to join with me, I would like to end with a breathing exercise. Breathing is how we bring air into our body. It's really good for us. So it helps us to be aware and help us to take charge. And by taking a second, a minute, or whatever, how long you want to breathe in, you're taking time for yourself and becoming more aware of your environment. So we'll start, we'll take in a deep breath in, hold it for a few seconds, and then out. So we'll start 1, 2, 3, let's go. Again. Thank you. This was Dr. Finolia. Love you, love yourself.
Thank you very much, Dr. Finolia. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. It's like we said, we keep learning about how much, when we think others know the language and they understand the language clearly, we can see clearly that it's not just people can't understand English, or the folks who speak English cannot understand another language, but right within the very same community, we're finding that problem. So thank you very much, Dr. Finolia, for enlightening us on that, where that is concerned. So we have Prince Dr. Dele Adeola from Yoruba, who is here now. He will, from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, Nigeria. Let us welcome Prince now.
Yeah. Welcome, Kale. Ṣàlàáfíà lẹ́wà. Ṣé báwo ni gbogbo nǹkan, báwo ni family? You're welcome. That is a bit of Yoruba language for you. I'm just saying good evening. Hope everything is going on well with you and your family. No,
yes, all of us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Let me start by first congratulating the organizer of this program. Today is World Literacy Day. It's very interesting to have this type of program because language is very vital. The way of communication is with language, you can build a friendship, relationship, economically and politically. There's nothing you can do without language. And literacy is very, very important, especially for people from this part of the world. I mean, in Africa. In fact, you have to be literary enough. You have to understand. Literacy means your ability to be able to read, your ability to be able to understand, your ability to perceive what is going on within the community. So it's very, very important. In fact, with literacy, Africa is highly endowed, especially Nigeria. We are highly endowed in all aspects of life. And the populace need to have a sort of education, literacy, to be able to hold.
Spanish, we have Bibi Ali, the president, Culture of Business Inc. Sorry, Blessings Inc. My bad, sorry about that, President Bibi. So, President Bibi. Yeah, please unmute yourself, you're still muted.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and sorry about the little technology that I'm in Florida State right now, and the internet seems to give us a little problem. So, buenos dias, good morning. My name is Bibi Ali. Mi nombre es Bibi. So I will speak 1 minute in English and I speak a minute in Spanish. My name is Bibi Ali. I am from Guyana and I was raised in Venezuela. And as a girl, have 2 languages, I realized how very hard it was for me to really tell you a little about me. My parents, I didn't really get to go to school at the far high school or junior high when I was in my country, Guyana. I'm an English-speaking person. And it was very hard for me to really learn English, even though I was an English person. But when I find myself went to Venezuela at a young age, as I learn a new language, it teaches me to be better in my own language. So that's where I helped me to become the better English person today. Yeah, Monica Sanchez, Miss CARICOM, we did the month of April, 500 meal given to the Spanish people in New York City. And I realized that how hard it was when we cannot speak a language. I was always there to help someone to defend them in Spanish. Bueno, buenos días a mi gente, a todos los latinos, los países latinos, que yo sé tan difícil que nosotros, difícil en Estados Unidos, por no comprender hablar en español, nosotros no entender las cosas. Para mí, dice que la gente morena y la gente negro que se murió en ese COVID-19, ¿por qué no tiene información? Información en latino necesita, por eso lo ve que mucha a la gente latino no usaba la máscara. No pensó que esa realidad, no pensó que uno se puede morir. Ese que yo lo vi en Estados Unidos, ese que lo vi en Nueva York, en el Queens Ozone Park. Nosotros necesitamos más educación sobre esa enfermedad. Y ese es mi deseo para decir que explicar más educación es importante para educación nosotros, latinos y todos que hablan otros idiomas. Porque no habla inglés bien, no comprende las cosas. Es difícil. Para ellos, para mí fue difícil en mi propio idioma. en mi propio país, donde yo me fui a vivir en Venezuela, y fue difícil para mí aprender otro idioma y comprender la ley, comprender la situación y comprender todo. Ese es mi consejo sobre la lengua, y hoy en día es difícil para uno cuando no habla inglés, más necesita ayuda el mundo para que nosotros aprendamos más, especialmente la gente pobre que necesita más ayuda, el pueblo que más necesita. Thank you, Ms. Monica Sanchez, and everyone that they are listening. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, President Bibi Ali, and God bless you too. And it's good to know that you're Guyanese. Guyanese here as well.
Yes, I'm a Guyanese. I was a Guyanese and I was raised in Venezuela, and so that's why I speak Spanish. And I'm proud that I'm a Guyanese, so I'm able to help many Spanish-speaking person. And I'm thankful to be a part of what I am doing, so able to make a difference in the world and make a difference with humans and make a difference in telling my story so they're able to be a better tomorrow for the better future for the women and girls and boys.
Thank you very much.
In the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we will have the indigenous community. We will have Dr. Parit, Hope Beyond Foundation from Kenya.
Hello, today I'm representing Dorcas Parit, and I'll speak in Swahili for a few seconds. Habari yenu, natumai mnaendelea vizuri katika familia zenyu, mnabaki nyumbani, mnakula vizuri na mnasubiri vitu zifunguliwe ndio kila mtu aonane na wengine. So I just said that that was Swahili, and I hope everyone is doing well at home with their families, ready to wait for Corona to end and we get back to our normal lives soon, probably. Oh, sorry. So I am speaking from Hope Beyond Transitional Center. It's in Kenya, and it's basically based on rescuing girls that have passed through FGM and early marriages and early pregnancies. So during this COVID time period, we have been facing a few challenges, especially with literacy. People come from the interior, the deep parts of Maasai land, and most cases, the children do not go to school because their parents probably haven't gone to school. And then during the process of rescuing them, we bring them to school. But during this COVID time period, everyone's at home and there's no school going on. And because they're so far from like the towns and civilization, you cannot have like online schooling or TVs or anything. But once they come to the center, we try help them learn things. And then when they go back home, they go back with books and stuff so that they may teach others and also keep on learning. But the problem is, as people have stayed home, the rates of FGM and child marriages have increased dramatically. And like teenage pregnancies have been a big issue here. And kids that are not studying, kids are getting sold off to older men, are getting mutilated, and that's been a big issue here. But the government is kind of chipping in, and the chiefs are being aware, and it's being announced that the parents are going to be accountable for all these actions. But yeah, during this Corona time period, literacy here is like really bad, and the kids are barely getting education or studying because of the nature here. Maasai people are very cultural people. Like you've seen today, I've tried to resemble because I'm a Maasai girl, young lady. But yeah, it is a very, it sticks to its traditions till today. And it's really hard for people to transition from the old times to this modern time of studying. But yeah, so those are the challenges we're facing here during this Corona time period. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I love your wear. Love the outfit. I don't know how can I get one. Very beautiful. Thank
You come to Kenya.
Oh, I am coming. I am coming. If it wasn't for COVID, I would have been there. Dr. Adam was planned to bring me. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next, we will have the faith-based community. We will have Babadogo Taro, if I'm correct. Please forgive me. President of the Association of the Togolese in the USA, ATUSA.
Is it better now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, fantastic. So that them message me you. Mina daninga mivun kozo so say dana lafia umbunga ke balanku karna so fer walada you. So I am Babadogo Batraore. I just use the team language so that to greet everybody for being on the panel and for listening to us. Again, I am the president of the Association of Togolese in the USA, and I've been working with mainly West African community, specifically Togolese community. For those who are not aware, Togo is a French-speaking country between Ghana and Nigeria. And basically, our organization here is comprised of mainly Muslims. And first of all, I would like to commend Dr. Ada and also Dr. Judy Kuransky for putting this very important event together. I think that the fact that we are putting an emphasis on the International Literacy Day is a great deal. I know that a great deal of people are working towards the 2030 agenda, and I'm very happy to be involved today in this event. Obviously, like we say, education is the most powerful weapon that one can use to change the world. Even I'm going to expand on the faith-based community. I would like to also draw your attention to the fact that the COVID-19 has had an impact in immigrant communities, especially the Togolese community or the West African community in the Bronx. I'm not going to elaborate too much on the education. I'm just going to probably focus on the COVID-19 impact and the challenges that we as leaders and as ATUSA, the Association of Togolese in the USA, the challenges that we have been facing in the community. Obviously, there are a lot of different components in those communities. Now, in the New York area, as you know, in the Bronx community, it's very cosmopolitan. Everybody's close to each other. And the challenge is mainly that you have during the confinement, it was much easier to convey the messages because people, can see that in fact, people are not allowed to go out. But still, we had the problems of communicating with them over the phone and trying to explain why only one member of the household is probably better off going out for very, very necessary and important errands, such as going to the pharmacy or going to the store to buy the food. We try to, to explain to people that there's no need for everybody to go out together. Despite the fact that all this information being provided, the language barrier is there also. Most of them, are of course educated, but there is a great deal whose education is not up to par. First of all, it was probably dialects, and then when they get to the US, they have to adjust to the English, and then before then, some are just even though they study French, the fact that they didn't go far to achieve certain degrees and be able to be fluent, that's also a drawback. So our challenges were to be able to explain to these people that, you have to adhere to the instructions of the political and the medical authorities of your area. Now, like I was saying earlier, during the confinement period, I would say end of February, March, April, May, June, it was easier because you can reach people where they are, and then they can see that something's different I guess around them. So that issue was there. Now, and then we have the situation where as I said, the mosques were closed. So that's another issue. You have to convince certain people that, you can always pray at home, as most of the, Muslim leaders that tell everybody. Some people, some men just thought that no, they will still sneak in the mosque, and then pray there, which is not really legal at that time. So we're trying to convey that message. So it's not easy for some people to understand the concept, because people still think that, well, whatever should happen will happen. It is what it is, because if God says that my time has come, then I'm going to die anyway. So we have to fight against those type of ideas, those type of concepts, which has been a great deal, very, very difficult for us. Obviously, to cover a certain, a great deal of people, it's not easy. You have to mobilize people who are making calls, and some of them we had to have teams that are going around around mosques to make sure that people do not steal, disobey the laws that have been established. And the enforcement has been, difficult, because the police is not everywhere. So we wanted to make sure that the community doesn't lend themselves to, contamination. As a matter of fact, in that community, we lost about 4 people to COVID-19. But still, people still sometimes they a little bit lax about it, because they think that it's an act of God. And I'm sure that in other confessions you have these ideas, but our main focus is to deter people from having those type of ideas. And later on, when the situation got a little bit better, and they decided to open, slowly, depending on the zone 1, 2, 3, and all that. We had, another problem. People thought that, oh, now in New York, everything's okay. We don't understand why we're being prevented from doing certain things. But we have to convince them that, well, again, the virus is not gone. It's still here. Now, we have different situations whereby even the leaders, the religious leaders thought that, it was okay. So first of all, we have to make sure that those leaders are on the same page as us at Atusa, or as the leaders of the state leaders and the medical authorities, because we have convinced them to accept the fact that, you know, COVID-19 is not something you have to play with. And besides, if Allah or God, you know, is going to help, you have to give him the, you know, the opportunity to help you. You have to help yourself first before God can help you. So we have these situations whereby we have to work with the leaders to convince them that, you know, they have to give a good example so that people can follow them correctly. And obviously, we have, again, the economic impact, that also is part of it. People decided to start, you know, doing Uber or Lyft, even though it was not, you know, quite the time. And they're trying to, because you know, everybody's saying, well, how are we going to live? Of course, there has been a great deal of help one way or another. Of course, you know, we have the unemployment situation, the government help, and then there are some organizations that have been providing food to, you know, these communities. So our job also is to make sure that, because of the lack of education and also the lack of technical skills, there has been some impact on those parents, because first of all, they don't have the skills to help their kids during the COVID-19 time, where we have, you know, virtual education. Then some of them were supposed to do their class work through the TV, because they didn't really have, everybody didn't get the, you know, the computers or the tablets. So that's another challenge. The parents themselves are not skilled enough to do it. So sometimes we try to, situations. Obviously, our organization is not obviously like everybody else financially strong, so but we did our best in that sense. And like I was saying, these are the challenges that in the community, in the Muslim community, because some of the people, they just became like well, fatalists, or how you call it. They just thought that, you know, God will do the rest. If it is our time to go, you know, it is our time. So we have to work on that situation too. But the fact that you know, the post confinement was you know, a little bit, I would say probably more difficult than previously, because people will say that they're out, so they're all home. Now it's a little bit relaxed. They tend to, you know, take it easy, and we have to, you know, convince them that not only you have to have this distanciation in the mosque, right? But not only that, if you have, you know, an event in your house, people coming to greet somebody, because, you know, there's a cultural element in that too, because people are thinking that, oh, you know what, you know, if I don't go and pay them a visit, they would think that I'm not part of the community, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be culturally. But we try to convince some people that at some point, you know, it's okay to make a phone call and explain that based on the situation, you cannot be there personally. So these are the challenges that we have faced at you know, Atuza. And you know, like I was saying, in the Bronx, we try to do our best, try to connect with people at their level, because most of them, their English is not that strong to be able to help their kids, and the dialects are also different. You know, like in Togo is very small, but you have over 40, you know, dialects. So you have different people like that. So you have to be able to find somebody who can connect with a family and try to explain to them what the situation is. I know that our time is, you know, short now. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and you know, God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're
You're
trying
welcome.
to wrap up within the next, let's say 20 minutes. So we only have 2 speakers left. So we're going to have a keynote presentation and infographics on Swahili language. That's coming from Dr. Judy Kurisinki. The trustee, United African Congress, NGO representative to the United Nations, of the International Association of Applied Psychology, advisor to the UN member states group of Friends of Mental Health and Well-Being. And accompanying her will be Jean-Marie Bazbuhi, if I'm correct, Hope and Health Vision from Congo. So over to you, Dr. Judy Kursinski. Sky, sorry. Over to you, Dr.
Kuriansky. Thank you so much, Devin. I'm so impressed with everyone. And my bottom line message about this, as we go into different languages, and Swahili specifically for me, is that there is a universality of all of us and all our languages. And Dr. Ada represents that universality in being such a Pan-Africanist and such a universal human being to bring us all together. So bless you, bless you, bless you. And I think there's a universal clapping of hands that we can all do, and going like this, which is what another people who are disabled do, to honor you, Dr. Ada. Why do I say that? Because in literacy, we are talking about language and reading and writing and arithmetic, the 3 R's of, that we use in America typically, but there are other ways of communicating universally for literacy in this world, particularly of COVID-19, until we get past where SDG 4 for universal education for all is achieved by 2030. And in fact, there are 3 ways I think that we can achieve this universality. One is by smiling. When we smile, we are communicating beyond words. So if I smile, I see Baba Dogo smiling back at me. Monica, your beautiful smile. Because you, oh, Jean-Marie, your beautiful smile. Ada, I see some beautiful smiles. It is impossible from the brain not to smile back at others. So that is a universal literacy that we can accept. The other is through song, and particularly for children. And so I ask Fina Olia to join me in this. This is a song in Creole and French that my bandmate and my partner who has been with me in many countries around the world, writing songs and speaking to people in all languages, Russell Daisy, has written. Very simple. Nous sommes tankou roseau namvan, nous plier, ne pas casser. And in French, nous sommes roseau dans le vent, nous plier, ne pas casser. This is an important song that children in Haiti and in French languages, and maybe in Togo too, speaking Francophone, know, which means very relevant to COVID-19. We are reeds in the wind, we bend, but we do not break. So song is critical, I think, to teach young children beyond words that can be literate indeed. And the third is through pictures. And that is where I get into the project that I have done with my colleague, Jean-Marie Bazabui, who is Congolese and now living for temporarily in Kansas, and we have a team on the ground. So I will ask Jean-Marie to say some words in Swahili, and then I will show you the project that we are doing in Swahili. I will simply say Jambo, which means hello in Swahili, and habari gani, meaning how are you? And Jean-Marie, you want to say some words in Swahili, and then we will get on with the PowerPoint.
Yes, jambo kwa watu wote. Naitwa Jean-Marie, natumika na Dr. Judy. Nafurahi sana kuwa na nyinyi wote, mko wazuri sana. I was saying hi to everyone. You look so beautiful, everyone. Love myself, and we are strong like a tree. Yes.
You are so cute. Oh, wonderful. And Baba Dogo, I want to remind that Benin is near Togo. I just went through Lomo airport very impressively to go to Benin. So I want to share my screen. I'd love to talk to you about that. And for Jean-Marie and I quickly to go through what we have been doing in the Democratic Republic of Congo as a result of COVID, and to show you from a literacy point of view, these are people in villages. They do not know really how to read and write, but we are communicating very valuable health education and psychosocial support activities to them through activities, doing things with them, and also through infographics that I will show you and that we are willing to share with anyone. So this is a unique culturally appropriate education program in the DRC under conditions of complex trauma with regard to COVID-19 and also the Ebola, which is still dwindling on, and conflict, which some of you countries certainly know what is going on. So I'm sure you can see my screen. The literacy program, it applies to many natural earthquakes and many pandemics, including Ebola, and even in terrorism situations where people are traumatized, not only the people, young people, children, elderly, the hospitals, the priests and the traditional healers, the doctors, and those of us who are first responders. In the issues of literacy that is facing in the COVID-19 pandemic, people want to know what's happening. They need to know what is happening. Words don't always explain that, but they need to be safe. And where did this come from? Myths. In the midst of COVID-19, there are myths that God is punishing us, or that the white people are punishing us, or that the NGOs are punishing us. These must be debunked. When will it happen again so we don't have to be afraid? How do I protect myself and my children? So now you are seeing the pilot project in the DRC and educating the community. So we have this brilliant project. Thank you, Jean-Marie, and your team on the ground, Lucio, Dr. Francesco, so many of the team, where you see in the corner here on the left, the infographics. I'll show you more clearly that we have made. Our team then shows the infographic through pictures. Pictures, according to research, communicates as much information as words. And you see on the right that we are teaching hand washing by modeling behavior. One, again, doesn't need that many words. You just do, and people copy. And then you see the mask wearing at the bottom. And you see that, in fact, what we are also doing is that we are providing entrepreneurial skills to women in the community by paying them to be seamstresses. We raised the alarm about coronavirus in Africa way back in March, February, when you see on the left, there were no cases in Africa. And we were at the UN, and we said at the United African Congress, myself and the chairman and my student from Colombia, Yaiwen Long from China, that we must be careful because of the dangers. And now you see on the right that there are in fact cases, sadly, in Africa, but not as many as other countries. So we are working hard to abate this by these techniques. Here we are speaking in front of the UN, myself and Dr. Mohammed Nur Hussein and my student Jai Wen Long from Teachers College at Columbia University. The conditions are serious because of the low literacy rates, exacerbated by the school closing. The young population that many of you know are in many developing countries that meant that half of the population is even under 35 and 25. The lifestyle that is crowded markets and poor health infrastructure and poverty, and the lack of trust in all these myths that COVID is in fact not real and brought by other forces. The triple trauma that I mentioned before of the economic devastation and the conflict and the pandemic and the remote villages. Now, Jean-Marie Bazirui has been doing a project called Hope and Health Vision, helping many children on the border of Congo and Burundi. He came, I met him in South Africa. I brought him to the United Nations to speak about the program. We subsequently developed this program called Health Education and Psychosocial Support. As you see the leaders with their boom boxes and their infographics. It is in alignment with international instruments, the SDGs that we heard about before, earlier in the opening, the Global Compact on Migration, Universal Health Coverage, which which is health coverage for all, the Astana Declaration, which means that mental health and physical health are important, and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Reproduction. It's in alignment with the United Arab Emirates and their SDGs in Action program called Health in Your Hands, which is reaching out to health for everyone, and the IASC Guidelines of Care, which means that you start at the basic services for people. So very, very briefly, before I turn it over to Jean-Marie to explain, you see that the staff is teaching the mask wearing, the women are learning, and men and children, the hand washing. They are also learning the physical distancing, because when they first come, they don't really understand that as well. Here you see the women who we pay to sew the masks. And here you see their psychosocial activities. They're holding their arms for loving themselves. And here, in fact, are the infographics. You see them in English and you see them in Swahili. We have made these ourselves. There are ones that WHO puts out, ones that are put out by various other ministries, but we develop the ones that we feel are important. This is the health education ones in terms of what the symptoms are, the prevention, if you are ill and what you do, and everything is in Swahili. And notice they are pictures that tell the story. So if you cannot read, it doesn't matter. You can see the pictures. And this is the infomercial set out with my toolbox of activities from psychosocial activities that build strength, resilience, and community connection, so that it is about loving yourself, as you see with the young girl with the flowers. It is about singing. It is about feeling strength within yourself. It is about loving children, loving elderly, reaching out to the disabled, no stigma, getting involved in your community activities. And all of these are translated beautifully into the Swahili language and keeping these pictures, which are universal. And here, close up, are some of the pictures that you saw in the infomercial so that you could see them. The literacy goals and the way forward are for providing culturally relevant educational tools, making them widely available, because we have posters, we give them out, hundreds of them, to people to spread to their community. We engage the local master trainers, the community leaders, the faith leaders, building the local capacity, hoping to scale them up from this pilot to others, spreading to other African countries, and applying to the multi-stakeholder partnerships of the SDGs we heard about, with different groups coming aboard and advancing the international policies of the SDG 3 about health. And of course that we need funding to raise these, all of which is leading to hope and things getting much better. And so I turn it to Jean-Marie Bazudui, who is amazing young man, head of the team, who are local, Congolese himself, who has helped design this entire program and managing it on the ground. Jean-Marie, love you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Judy, and everyone for being here. So again, in Swahili, we say jambo, tunafurahi sana kuwa na nyinyi. So our program is called Hope and Health Vision, and we work in rural area. We help women and older people who didn't go to school, because most of the time they don't have radios, like my previous speakers said. In Africa, especially in rural area, we don't have internet, we don't have cell phones, we don't have like a good transportation. So we were lucky to have Dr. Judy, who suggested, no, we're going to use the infographics, means the image, which is also one of the universal language to speak to people who do not read or have the new technology. So when we made the image, first of all, I would like to add to what Dr. Judy said, or correct, like image or infographic is not only as much as words, but is like double, twice. Like when you use the images, is like you're teaching 2 times at the same times. And also in village, it is when people keep it in home, people keep looking at it in time, it has more impact on the brain than the words, because sometimes we forget the words.
Right.
So there were a lot of myths, like a recent one is for the faith-based community, Thank you so much to Dr. Baba again. What he said, we have a priest from Congo who died recently in Cameroon, and he was wearing masks and he was preaching. I have a video of it. And he died during his preaching and talking wearing masks. And those older women and young older men or uneducated people, I respected them a lot. They said that no, the WHO is sending us bad things. So the mask can kill us. The mask stop us breathing, so we don't have to wear the mask. And then our job now was, first of all, to recognize what they said, and then to teach them that masks cannot kill, but it can help. And then Dr. Judy with the team of the African Union Congress said, we can help the people make their own masks, because the mask made by the WHO, again, it is wrong, it's a myth. They were thinking that those masks were containing something to kill people when you wear it. When you put it on your mouth. So we explained to people, no, these masks are good and this international community are here to help you and they love you. And the COVID-19 is not a punishment from God. So if some of you have lived in a rural area or in a village, they can understand me very well, because myself, I lived in there and you know, how the beliefs of people are very strong. And also, more important, in rural areas, people trust religious leaders like 99% than any other community. So we have a WhatsApp group where we talk to people, local people. Some people have a cell phone. They said, because one priest commented that the one who died wearing masks, he commented, no, the mask had something like a poison from the Western countries, and so we don't want those to wear those masks. We told people no, and because they know us, we are from the same area. Like the presentation of Dr. Judy said, we used the community leaders, we engaged in the funding solutions. They say we did teach them, and they told the community people like, no, those masks didn't have something bad. If you allow me to share the screen, I can share the video. You see here. Yeah. So we explained those people, we used the mask, and now things are again coming to the normal way. So people are now starting to wear masks, those that we made, and the mask made in Western countries. And because of the image and the infographic that Dr. Judy did, the local community and villages did change their mind a lot.
So thank you so much, Jean-Marie. I think this has been a tremendous, I'm very proud of this example of what the UN has been asking for, which is partnerships and cross-cultural partnerships, I think, which can demonstrate that we can bridge the gap that we've been talking about with regard to education through all these different modalities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you, Dr. Judy and Jean. At this time, we will have our final speaker, who will come with the intervention statement. And she is no other than Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Monica Sanchez.
Hello, everybody. What an interesting conversation. Dr. Judy, I must commend you on your presentation. I enjoyed immensely and very informative about a lot of the issues that have been plaguing my mind. Thank you. I just want to say how in the COVID-19 pandemic, language, this is how language has affected the importance of a pandemic that's going on. Language, as we see in a lot of the speakers that speak in, play a very crucial and important part in the sharing of information, as most information is shared in English and UNESCO in official languages. In this COVID-19 pandemic, issues on necessity of language is spotlighted a lot. as information has to be given in a timely manner, which is in a rush, and it has to be shared globally. In the US alone, we have over 25 million people non-speaking English people, which means they don't speak English, they speak other languages. And when these people get sick and go into hospitals, we have personnel, we have health personnel who has to diagnose and treat them in a timely manner. This is a disadvantage, as most of these non-English speaking people have no interpreter with them, and interpreters are not easily accessible. So this caused a delay in treatment and diagnosis by medical professions, which is crucial, especially during the pandemic, as we all seen. Then we also have, as Dr. Fiona described, patients who are given instructions, medical instructions, and are not able to comprehend or understand exactly what is it that they are being told or supposed to do, which is another health issue. Since most non-speaking, non-English speaking patients do not have readily access to interpreter, it could become a very deadly game in the delay of diagnosis and treatment. I want to say that I myself, one of my family members, had some struggles in going to the hospital and being turned away because communication was an issue. And then when they got very, very sick with the COVID, because communication was an issue and they were misdiagnosed, and it was fatal. So it's also a personal effect that the language barrier is a serious issue in our community. As now that we see that we have to deal with a new way of life, most things are being done online, and we have to now have a distancing in our communication and in our dealings with each other. So access to a regular way of life and a regular way of learning is no longer the norm. Now it's an online basis or distance learning. And so in this new way of dealing with each other, life, social, educational, spiritual, and every other dealings that we have, it is very important that we adopt or we implement the mother tongue or rural language, because communication now has become the most important thing. In good times, language is not spotlighted as much as it is in a pandemic. Because there is an emergency, because there is a pandemic, I would say this is a good thing, because this is something that should have been addressed a long time ago. Because like a couple of our speakers said, that in the home you have grandparents who speak their rural language, mother tongue language, and we have the younger people who do not translate that properly. We also have residents that say, oh, I speak Creole, I speak French, but can't read or write it, because it's not a proper French for them to read and write, and one is mother tongue French that they're learning. So at this point in time, it is very important for us to have a more productive society right now, because of correct compliance and quick diagnostic. We need information that can be observed and understood in a better way. So mother tongue and rural languages is something that at this time UNESCO must engage in a protocol, because there's an urgency now in the mother tongue and rural language. We must include all people in this project. We must implement the 5 Ps, and we must see from the pandemic the urgency now for mother tongue language and a rural language. It is so important. My colleague Bibi Ali, who spoke earlier and myself, we were on the street with the non-English speaking residents who suffered a lot during this pandemic, the ones that we saw, because they couldn't access some of the help that was there. They couldn't access some of the program, the food program, the pantries. They didn't understand the English. They couldn't apply for the free food. So they were actually going hungry for days. People were suffering right here in America, in New York. And so we were able to feed a lot of people a hot meal. You know, Bibi Ali spoke Spanish. And when we got there, even to call them to say, come and get something, I couldn't do it in English. She had to talk to them in Spanish. So they still couldn't communicate. And then they referred to her in Spanish, how their family were starving and all this kind of stuff. And we could have shared information with them where they can go and get certain access to help. So it is very, very urgent and important now that UNESCO implement some form of strategy for us to pursue mother tongue language and rural language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanchez. That's well put together, well summarized. I love it. Thank you. You basically did my job for me. But nevertheless, this brings us to the end of our conversation here today. Let me say thank you very much to all of the speakers for gracing us with your presence, for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your experience at the same time with us. But before we go, is there anyone that might have any questions? Please feel free to either put it in the Q&A section, or you can raise your hand in the panelist area, and we can, or you can even unmute yourself depending on your question and the length of your question. We can answer your question now if there's any questions. In the meanwhile, we're waiting for anyone to have any question. Let me ask Dr. Ada if she can come, and she will give us the vote of thanks. This is the person who is behind all of this. It's just like I told some others on Saturday at another event that we had. We just had a conversation, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm correct. And she asked me if I'm doing anything. I said, I'm not too sure. Might not be able to put something together so quick, but hey, this is a woman that she comes up with stuff like this. And it's good food. It's not something that you have to worry about or wonder about, but it's good stuff. And here we can see that good stuff was delivered today. Good food was delivered today from persons from all walks of life, from all parts of the world. So before we answer any questions, let me invite Dr. Ada so that she can come, she can greet us, she can say a few words to us, and if possible, she might even give the vote of thanks, because she's the one that basically is the mastermind behind this, and then I will turn around and say thank you again to her. Dr. Ada, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bannister, and thank you, everyone. I think someone has a question. Bill Graham has his hand raised.
Yeah, we will take that question after you. You go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't want to say much, but I just want to thank everyone that was able to make it. Just as Dr. Bannister says, this is a fire brigade operation, and we thought it wise that COVID-19 is an infant now that has certain knowledge, certain experiences, certain challenges and gaps, especially with relation to languages. And that's what is our infant for putting these various languages together to share our experiences on this Literacy Day regarding reaching the community, reaching the indigenous citizens through their native languages. And you can agree with me that the kickoff of this COVID-19 has challenges of understanding. A lot of people didn't know what it was because everything was geared in English language. So it took time. By the time we started knowing what was going on, people were dying like animals. So I think one of the challenge, one of our recommendation is to have the policy body, especially those who floated this literacy day, the UNESCO, that there should be education and training in regards to pandemic situations in various languages, not just English language, not just French, not just the 6 UN languages, but various languages, you know, that people will be, by the time it gets out, there will be a grounding knowledge, you know, about what is going on. So it's a very important thing for us to address our languages. Even on the day of Mother Tongue, February 21, it's not just Mother Tongue, but addressing various languages in some pertinent issues, you know, because just as one of the speakers said, the French speaker said, some people hear the language, they can't write it. Some people hear it, they can't even read it, but they speak it. So there are still challenges in this kind of trying to address pandemic and issues through languages. So I must thank all of you. I must thank Dr. Judy K for her, in fact, I don't think it was up to 24 hours I got to her on this. And a lot of you, like the president of Togo. In fact, yesterday I was on the road, I was calling him, please, you need to come and share this. And he said I should call him in the night. And at around 9 p.m. when we spoke, he said he's going to do that. You see, it's just the passion and the interest of the, it's not just talking about sustainable development goals, the 2030 agenda and all that. It's the passion you have to share the experiences of people that counts, you know. And I also call Dr. Prince Adiola from Nigeria in Europe. I was saying, the time is not good for Nigeria. I said, please, I need you to talk on the experiences Yoruba language. And he was able to do that all the way from Nigeria, and satisfied that challenges were on network, but he still had something to do. And also my sister, I said, one that is the daughter of Igbo land. All these people were yesterday. I got to them, you know, and I felt so touched that they were able to make a mark. And my good friend, Yilin, the Chinese, you know. So I don't know what to say much. Of course, the organizations that put this thing together, not only me, but we have these organizations that put this together, like the Center for SDG Global Education in USA, the McBain Arts and Culture Education, the Bajuni Foundation, the Miss Caricom Foundation and UNESCO Institute for Fashion Education, and African Cultural Promotion Inc. So we are able to put this, they recommend members of the speakers in languages that brought, like Dr. Where is she? I think she's gone. Dr. Finolia, all the way from California. You know, everything was finalized with her yesterday. You know, and she came with two languages, the French and the Haitian language. So we are so much touched by what we are doing, and we want to continue with their support. I want to also appreciate Eric. Eric is not from Germany, but he teaches German. He listens, he hears and speaks German language. And when I told him, he said, okay, even though he's at work, but he's trying to go. And so he can see that when he was speaking for his desk office. So, and so many of you, all of you, the speakers, I feel sorry for the Hausa Fulani who couldn't, I don't know why, he has challenges of logging in from Boston, you know. So I think it's an experience. And an indigenous community, they had issue of problem reaching out to indigenous people on this. In fact, there was no platform to get to the indigenous people, no platform. So these were challenges of languages, you know. So I would love to know that. And I'm happy to hear about Swahili. I've never heard about Swahili language, and I heard it today from Dr. Judy and Jean, you know. So it's an opportunity. I believe that we can expand on this. we can pick from what we've done today. There are still many languages and dialects. In my Igbo cultural language, when Ngozi spoke our local language, you have about 500 and something dialects under Igbo language. You can imagine some of them, like when she speaks certain Igbo, I will not hear and she will not hear. And these are the kind of language. And these things need to, because we are looking at leave no one behind. These issues, pandemic, need to be educated in these languages. So it's a lot of work to this, not just talking about literacy. Yes, we're not telling what literacy on what? Is it on English or French or known languages or Spanish? But there are still dialects and languages. Like when President of Togo spoke the Alala, I didn't even understand what he was saying, you know? And I don't think that that's the national language in Togo. Maybe that's his own ethnic, tribal language or a community language. So we have things to do, and this needs to be educated about the ongoing pandemic so that they can be conscious of that. And will not forget the fact that knowledge is power, education is power, but we need to teach, we need to provide knowledge in the correct language. So I thank, I also thank Dr. Monica Sanchez for her efforts to bring in the friends from Dr. Finolia, who is also married to a Nigerian. I can imagine, you know, all the way from Haiti to Nigeria. So I thank everyone for your efforts and for your time. We say that this is a long-serve shared conversation. And I want to acknowledge Bill, who it was just around 10 a.m. that he said I should send him the link. You know, 10 a.m. this morning. And he was able to even share the link to people and brought in some people. So that talks about passion for what we are destined to do for humanity and in addressing the UN agenda of leave no one behind. So I thank you all for your time, and we shall continue. This is not the beginning. Maybe we'll call another time. And I thank Dr. Bannister too. In fact, people should clap for me for being able to keep him. He's not on the road now. He's always on the road. So I should win the battle for keeping him to do this hearing. Because when you say, I'm not going to, okay, let me just do, I say, okay. But today I say, you are going to moderate from beginning to the end. So he's able, and so he can sit down one place without being on the road. So I thank you all for coming, and I believe that what we have done here is going to take us up. We're going to put it together, and I'll work, Dr. Judy, I would like to work with you to see how we can do a good package that we want to make recommendation to UNESCO, because the Literacy Day has to be more meaningful, especially to address languages. If you're talking about education and pedagogy, we need to think about teaching, learning in various languages for us to achieve quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning. So I thank you all for coming, and I thank everyone who is here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ada. Thank you for addressing us and for putting together this wonderful forum for us, whereby we all can be able to assemble and to have such fruitful discussion. I know Bill Graham have his hand up, so you can unmute yourself and go ahead, Mr. Graham.
Thank you. Thank you. First, I'd just like to say this is really another great event. This is, I think, my third, maybe even the fourth event that Dr. Ada has organized. And I have to say the passion of the participants in the events that this group has organized are nothing short of amazing meetings that I think I've attended in a lot of UN-related events. And again, is Bill Graham. I'm the vice chair of the NGO Committee for Education, Learning, and Literacy at the UN here in New York. Haven't met physically with anybody for quite a while right now, but the goals haven't changed. I'm also the president of a Rotary Global E-Club called Dare to be Great. And Dare to be Great is all about going and saying, forget about what you think you can do. We need to learn to set goals based on what is needed. And we heard today about a lot of problems related to literacy and education. 700 million people who are essentially functionally illiterate. Surprisingly enough, here, states of America are among that category. We've heard a lot about anecdotal, primarily on what we're doing about the 700 million. It's very easy to go in, take over a school, take over in a community, and make significant change. But if we listen to Andrea Schleicher from OECD that does the international education comparisons, the education needle has not moved at all in the last 10 years. In fact, in most of the world, the literacy rate is going backwards, and as well as the poverty rates. So this is something here. How do we go and address the 700 million? One of the things we do here in this Dare to Be Great environment that I work in is learn to set goals based on what's needed and not what we think we can do. So that even if it doesn't make any difference whether we think we can do it, that whole idea of don't bite off more than you can chew, that's our worst enemy. If we don't go and set the goals based on what needed, we never stretch and we never grow. We only grow when we stretch to figure out how to do things we don't yet know how to do. And so we look for that. Michelangelo said, the problem for most people is not that we set our goals too high and fail, but that we set our goals too low and succeed. And every time we set a low goal and succeed, other people say, oh, I don't have to do anything. Look, they're accomplishing the problems. But as I said, we're a third of the way to 2030 when we're supposed to achieve the SDGs, and we're worse off right now in education than we were 5 years ago. At the same time here, when we have to act, and Einstein supposedly said here, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. But one of the things that we and the young people I work with around the world say, to want something to happen or somebody to do something and not planning to cause it to happen is the definition of wishful thinking. So when we see here all these literally millions of grassroots, and Rotary's we're in 65,000 locations around the world, and we sponsor hundreds of thousands of projects. But on the aggregate level, it's not making a difference because one starts, the other stops. So we have to look here, how do we get in, if we look in sub-Saharan Africa, what is it, 86%, 87% of primary and lower secondary school age children have not achieved minimal literacy and numeracy standards. So we have to look to see how do we mobilize. So I want to challenge this group, my group here that I'm working with, and I want to challenge this group. Let's set our goals to find ways that we are going to reduce the number of at least lower secondary school children and primary that are not in school due to hunger or extreme poverty, or have not achieved minimal literacy and numeracy standing by age 10, then we're going to drive that number to 0. And again, I don't care if people say, but we don't know how to do that, or we can't do that because of this, and we can't do that because of that. I don't care. The only thing that is truly as possible is that we don't attempt. And if we don't aim to do something, our chances of achieving it are almost 0. So I hope you will accept that challenge here, and we can work together and come up with ways that we can go and move the needle for the hundreds of millions. I showed this in one of the recent events that I participated here with Dr. Ada, member of Team Vision Africa 2030. It's a wristband, SDGs Now, Dare to Be Great. And I have a quote for 50 million of these. We want to issue 50 million of these to young Africans who dare to go and take on a literacy challenge, and because of that, earn the right to be declared global citizen heroes. And that we can then go and make them aware they are now global citizen heroes in a way they will want to do that more but also in a way that will let us reduce the number of children in Africa not in school due to hunger, extreme poverty, to 0 within 5 years. And that we can go here and achieve the percent of young adults that master 21st century skills and become independent learners to drive that number north of 90% before 2030. So thank you here, and I hope here that we'll be able to work together and actually bring about those changes, because we don't need to get an Africa full of young people who can read about all the things that they will never have in their lives. We need an Africa full of young people who are internationally competitive and are going to be able to turn Africa into a developed continent by 2030 or 2035 at the latest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graham. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for enlightening us on what you do and for extending us the invitation to be to partner with you so that we all can be able to achieve that. Let me say thank you very much to the technician before I forget, because if it wasn't for this technician here, I don't know how we would have been able to maneuver around. I myself, I'm still trying to learn Zoom in overall, and he has done an exceptional job in keeping us in line and keeping me in track on the go. So Mr. Tony, if you don't mind revealing yourself, Mr. Tony, so that everyone can see Mr. Tony. Mr. Tony, do you want to say anything?
Yes, Devon, like I said, it's nice to, listen to everyone here today. It's been awesome lessons and a lot of ideas I've been gathering every day during each session of online meetings. It's been an awesome, and I, in Africa here, do a little part of my own contribution to, the skill acquisitions to the young children through my ICT company, the Hill ICT Center. So I train secondary school children on how to do graphic designs, website designs, and computer jobs. So it's one step, at a time, and we all can do a bigger thing and a greater thing, and the world will change to a better place. So I thank everyone, and I'm glad to be in the midst of you guys to control the Zoom from behind, right here in Abuja. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony. Thank you. So here it brings us to the end of this forum, of this wonderful conversation that we were able to put together. I hope all the guests, the visitors, everyone that's online, that's listening, that's watching us, I hope that everyone were able to grasp something, they were able to learn something, they were enlightened. For those government officials around the world watching at us right now, because I know we're live on Facebook, this is a message to you that you have to do something more where the education system is concerned in the country, even in the villages, no matter where they are. Don't ever assume that everyone knows. Don't assume it, because you'll be surprised to know what you find out at the end of the day. So please, this is a cry, this is a plea to the governments around the world, the various ministers of the various departments, especially the education department, because without the education department, how can we, how can the other departments, the other ministries of the government, or the other branches of the government be able to better serve the people if the language have a barrier to it? So we need to break that barrier down. We need to tear that wall down so that we can be able to better enlighten and to better serve. I know everyone here would like to connect in some way, in some form or the other. So in the chat, in the chat section, what you can do, you can include your name, your email address. One can be able to connect because from what was gathered here today, a lot of organizations have areas and means in which they can come together and work together. They can collaborate so that we can be able to better serve the people. We can be able to better educate the people. Just one thing before I close, growing up in school, I'm Guyanese by birth. I live in the US now, but I completed high school in Guyana. We had a thing in our school called cluster. And in our cluster, there was one period or twice a week, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head 100%, but it was from between first and third farm. You have the option to learn a different language for a term or for a year. It all depends on what you choose. And to be honest, that really, really, really helped me to the fact whereby it's still being done. And I was very fascinated to know that one of my very own cousin who speaks English, she's very fluent in Portuguese. Now, I only did Portuguese for what? For a term, and after that, I bit my tongue up so much that I said, miss, you know what? Let me stay with English. I will stay in my comfort zone, but you know what? A lot of people still took the time to branch off and to go and to learn other language. We have many people who speak more than one language. And like we know, during the time of the COVID, a lot of people suffered because of that language barrier. Let's try our best to break that barrier down. Let's try our best to educate the people. Let's focus on that 1.2 billion people who need that education across the world, that they themselves can be able to better advance themselves. To all the speakers, to all the panelists, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. Thank you very much for availing your knowledge to us, that we of ourselves can be able to be educated. Thank you very much for adding value to what we already have, because what you have already have value, but here it is now, more value has been added to what you already have. On behalf of the Center of SDG, on behalf of Magban Arts and all the other organizations who played a vital role here today, on behalf of Dr. Ada, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much to everyone for being here and being a part of this wonderful conversation. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Devon Bannister. I am the Pro-Chancellor for Psych International University and Seminary, as well as I am the founder and president for Magban Arts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you all. Mr. Tony, is it possible that we can get a group photograph? Well, one mass photograph. If everyone can unmute, sorry, take off the camera, turn the camera on,
Yes, everybody
so that we can get one.
There. Let's take a group shot.
Yes, so everyone please turn the camera on and put on those bright smiles. Now, I know they say when you say cheese, all of your teeth show, but I went to Canada and I was in the presence of a Canadian who have some Chinese affiliation. And he told me it's better when you say kimchi. When you say kimchi, everything shows. So let's try that.
All right, so I'm good to go if we can.
1, 2, 3, kimchi.
Hey.
Yeah, so we can try one more. I got a good caption here, but we can try one more.
Okay, ready? Count us in, Mr. Tony.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Kimchi.
Kimchi.
That's great.
Actually, kimchi is Korean.
Oh, Korean, you see, he didn't tell me Korean, he said to me Chinese. But it works. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. Okay, thank you very much to everyone, and do have a wonderful day. Remember to stay safe in the time of the COVID.